Well, good evening once again. Day 1224 of the Trump administration, 160 days until the presidential election. We've had trouble on the streets of two American cities tonight, Minneapolis and Los Angeles. We'll have more on both situations in a bit. But first, we have, as a nation, crossed into new territory tonight as the marker of how this pandemic has changed this country reaches a stark and difficult to fathom high. We have now lost over 100,000 Americans, 100,846 to be exact as of the time we come on the air. That is roughly equal to the population of the cities of Tuscaloosa, Alabama, or Burbank, California, or South Bend, Indiana. And in this area, sadly, the United States leads the world. The cases continue to mount right now north of 1.7 million. That's just in our country, just what we know of. The increase in deaths from early March until now has been relentless, startling in its speed. 100,000 people gone in fewer than 100 days. This is some of what we heard from the president as the virus was claiming more and more victims.
Are there words about a pandemic at this point?
No, we're not at all, and we have it totally under control.
Looks like by April, in theory, when it gets a little warmer, it miraculously goes away. I hope that's true.
We're finding very little problem. Now, you treat this like a flu. When you have 15 people, and the 15 within a couple of days is going to be down to close to zero, it's going to disappear. One day, it's like a miracle. It will disappear.
The Democrats are politicizing the coronavirus. This is their new hoax.
It will go away. Just stay calm. 2.2 million deaths. If we could hold that down, as we're saying, to 100,000, it's a horrible number. We all together have done a very good job. And then I see the disinfectant, where it knocks it out in a minute, 1 minute. And is there a way we can do something like that by injection inside or almost a cleaning?
Trump's White House, which, don't forget, has witnessed its own outbreak in the residence portion and the West Wing, has been under intense fire for its response to the virus as it tightens its grip on the nation. Just this morning, as the staggering new toll was becoming apparent, the president posted this message, quote, "The radical left lamestream media, together with their partner, the do-nothing Democrats, are trying to spread a new narrative that President Trump was slow in reacting to COVID-19. Wrong. I was very fast, even doing the ban on China long before anybody thought necessary." But before he even sent that, Trump was focused on his war with Twitter, launched in the wake of its decision to add fact checks to his unsubstantiated posts alleging voter fraud in this country. And we quote, "Republicans feel that social media platforms totally silence conservatives' voices. We will strongly regulate or close them down before we can ever allow this to happen. Big action to follow." Now, the AP notes that, quote, "The president can't unilaterally regulate or close the companies, and any effort would likely require action by Congress." It's also been widely reported just tonight that tomorrow the president is going to sign some sort of yet-to-be-defined executive order on social media. Details TBA. Late this afternoon, the White House did acknowledge the latest grim milestone in this pandemic in a third-person statement that read in part, quote, "President Trump's prayers for comfort and strength are with all of those grieving the loss of a loved one or friend as a result of this unprecedented plague." Meanwhile, there are new concerns tonight about the so-called silent COVID-19, that the number of asymptomatic people with the virus much greater than originally thought. New cases rising now in over a dozen states, mostly in the South. Just about the entire Southeast is a hotspot now. Also the upper Midwest, Puerto Rico as well. Officials in Arizona have reported spikes in hospital admissions, with emergency room visits reaching a new one-day high on Sunday. Experts have warned about a second spike of outbreaks as more states loosen their restrictions, as more people head outside as the weather warms up. In an interview with PBS just today, Dr. Fauci says a second wave may not be inevitable.
For those who have opened up in a way that has been strictly according to the guidelines of the gateway, the phase 1, the phase 2, even at that approach, there are going to be cases that you're going to see blips. That's inevitable, and people should not be surprised at that. I continue to say that we need to be prudent and careful and not to, in the sense, go prematurely. My feeling is that if we put all our efforts into that, we can prevent these blips from becoming a resurgence or a second wave. It's how you handle it that determines whether or not you have a second wave.
Now, Fauci went on to say the next few months will be critical in terms of developing that vaccine.
It is not only conceivable, but I'm cautiously optimistic that we would have a vaccine towards the end of this year and the beginning of next year.
Now, a big move to report tonight on the so-called reopening front. Disney saying its Orlando park will start accepting visitors on a limited basis beginning 11 July. Speaking of Florida, which happens to be a battleground state politically, Trump was at Cape Canaveral today for the first space launch of American astronauts from U.S. soil in nearly a decade. He, along with the First Lady, got to tour part of the Kennedy Space Center, which they walked through without masks, though the First Lady did wear a mask while on board Marine One on her way to Air Force One, as you no doubt know by now. Bad weather forced NASA to scrub the launch of the SpaceX Falcon rocket some 16 minutes before liftoff time. Now rescheduled for Saturday, the president says he'll be down there once again. Peter Baker of the New York Times summed up Trump's day this way, quote, leaving behind coronavirus meetings, Trump flew to Florida in hopes of watching the first launch of NASA astronauts into orbit from the United States in nearly a decade. Nothing would say America is back with more verve than a rocket's red glare, but 16 minutes before liftoff, the launch was scrubbed, undermining for now the narrative of recovery the president had been pitching after months of national lockdown.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.